God, and they shall live secure, for now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and he shall be one of peace. If the Assyrians come into our land and tread upon our soil, we will raise against them 7 shepherds and 8 installed as rulers.
Hear these words from the Gospel of Luke. Listen for the word of the Lord. In those days Mary set out and went with haste to a Judean town in the hill country, where she entered the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the child leaped in her womb. And Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit and exclaimed with a loud cry, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. And why has this happened to me, that the mother of my Lord comes to me? For as soon as I heard the sound of your greeting, the child in my womb leaped for joy. And blessed is she who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what was spoken to her by the Lord." Let us pray. Faithful God, may my words be your words. May the meditations of all our hearts be guided by you. God, our help in ages past, present, and future. Amen. I would be remiss if today's sermon did not in some way reference Star Wars. I would be falling down on the job if I did not do this, if I did not fulfill my responsibility on this particular Sunday. So, here we go. But I won't be referencing the new one. I haven't seen it yet, and I wouldn't spoil it for you if I had anyway. What I want to do is go back to the original, read the good trilogy, to episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. And there was one scene in this movie where Luke Skywalker has traveled to the marshy, swampy planet on which Master Yoda lives. And he is beginning to learn the ways of the Force. And one exercise, one lesson that Yoda has him engage in is he has to try to use the Force to lift his X-Wing fighter out of the bog in which it has become stuck. And so Luke tries to do this, and he can't quite get it done. And he is frustrated. And Yoda sees this as yet another teaching moment. And he begins this lesson by saying, "Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter." Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. And then Yoda goes on to teach about the nature of the Force, how it is in us and around us, and it helps give life, and really it stems from life and it expands from there, giving birth to life, and it gets bigger and more expansive. But it starts with luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. This implies that we are more than what we can just see and touch and hear. We are more than what our senses can detect. There is more to us, and there is more to the world, and there is more to the universe. There is this light that permeates in us and around us. There is this light. Luminous beings are we. We are beings of light. There is a light within us. And if we but detect it, tap into it, become aware of it, how different would we be? How different would the world around us be? Mary is off to visit her relative Elizabeth. And by this point in the story, as Luke tells it, she has already been visited by Gabriel. Gabriel has already come to her and said that she will conceive and bear a son by extraordinary means, by means of the Holy Spirit coming to her. God will do extraordinary things through the one she is now carrying. And not only that, but also during the same visit, she is also told that Elizabeth has also become pregnant by extraordinary means. God likes to do this quite often in the Scriptures. She has also become pregnant, and she will eventually bear a son as well, who will eventually be known to us as John the Baptist. And so Mary is on her way to visit. Two of them will get together for a time. And you really have to stop and think for a moment about the specifics of Mary's situation. Mary is very young. She has just been betrothed to Joseph. And now, suddenly, she is already pregnant. This was not really the timeline that they had anticipated. There was probably more than one interesting conversation between Mary and Joseph about this. There is the stigma of society that they would have had to deal with. And there was the sudden preparation for starting a family. And all the uncertainty and all the anxiety that comes with that. And this is not a family that would have had a lot of means to begin with. And now suddenly there will be a child in their midst. It's easy for us to read ahead. It's easy for us to read ahead and think, well, this turns out okay. What's the big deal? But to think of it from Mary's perspective in that moment, she doesn't know. There is a lot of uncertainty, and it entails a lot of trust that God is going to see this through. So Mary, with all of this swirling inside her and around her, Mary goes to visit Elizabeth. And upon greeting Elizabeth, Elizabeth has a little bit of a moment. We are told that the child within her leaps in her womb, inasmuch as one could leap, I guess. Regardless, the movement was significant enough for Elizabeth to notice and to be inspired. And Elizabeth begins proclaiming. We might say even prophesying to Mary. She gives a series of blessings. She first says, "Blessed are you, Mary. Blessed are you, Mary, and blessed is the fruit of your womb." All of this, there is blessing surrounding you, even if you can't truly, fully detect and appreciate it yet. And Elizabeth reserves a little bit of blessing for herself as well. She doesn't use the word, but she says, "Who am I that the mother of my Lord comes to me? I am blessed in this moment as well." And then Elizabeth kind of circles back around and offers one more blessing to Mary. Blessed is she who trusts in the fulfillment of God's promises. And we might be able to imagine at this point, given all that Mary is probably thinking about and wondering about and having questions about, this sort of proclamation and this sort of blessing shared with her might temper some of that down, at least a little. Blessed is she who trusts in God's promises. Both Mary and Elizabeth, of course, it's obvious, will be eventually giving birth. They will eventually give birth to two extraordinary figures who will help point the way to a new reality, a new way of seeing the world, a new way of interacting with the world, a new way of seeing God's presence in the world and what God is up to and how we can participate in that. They are not only giving birth to two people, but they are giving birth to an entire movement. An entire new way of seeing what God is doing among us. And an invitation to be a part of it. It is a new way of seeing the light within us and around us. A new way of realizing luminous beings are we. Now this Sunday, this fourth and last Sunday of Advent, we are invited to think in particular about love. We've lit our fourth candle, which symbolizes love. We tend to talk about that fairly often around here anyway. It's one of the big themes of Jesus' life and ministry, one of the big things that God would like us to show to one another. So we are here, we are meant to reflect a little bit about love. And what it is, and what it means, and how to show it. The spiritual writer Carl McColman makes some observations about participating in the mutuality of love. And he notes that first, it starts with our receiving love. That we receive first God's love that is unconditional, that is no strings attached. God just chooses to share love with us. And not only do we receive that love, but we also receive what McColman calls the broken yet trying love of others. Broken yet trying. That is, we attempt to love one another as best we can. But it is imperfect. We're not always that good at loving one another, but we do our best. And we're not always, let's be honest, good at receiving love from others. So there is this broken yet trying love that we receive, and then from there we begin loving back. We begin loving back. We participate in this mutuality of love, and in our participation, love ever expands and grows. Life makes it grow. Life gives birth to life. Love gives birth to love. So we have reached this point. We've reached this point where, as I was told very precisely, 5 days. We are 5 days away from the celebration of birth that is to come. And we are invited, all of us, to participate in that birth. Now, quite obviously, Mary will do this very literally and physically. But the rest of us are also invited to participate in this birth in a spiritual way. Life giving birth to life, love giving birth to love, light giving birth to light. We are all meant to be a part, to participate actively in this birth as we point out to one another the light that is within us and all around us. The light of Christ shining in the world. And to take part in that. We are meant to participate, to first receive God's gifts of grace to us, God's gifts of love and presence and forgiveness, and then to share them with each other. And we are meant to realize that we are more than this crude matter. But at the same time, to remember that this crude matter is important. That this crude matter matters to God. That this life now matters to God, and all the love and life and light is meant to affect how we live with one another. This birth, in which we are all meant to take part, begins with us realizing luminous beings are we. We are luminous beings, meant to share the light with each other. Amen.